Hey, good evening, campers and inmates. How's it going on this? It's bloody freezing up here. I don't know what it's like where you are, but my goodness, it's still cold. And I was on roofs last week. I was only frozen. Little pinkies. But all white. So, anyway, that's me getting old and cold. And yeah. How's your week been? Has it been groovy? Well, tonight we'll have a dip into La La Land as usual. Only a little one. It's not worth the effort. But we've got some good stuff about the how to rebut presumptions. I mean, we've discussed this before, the 12 presumptions of court, which of course are taken from Canon 3 something, blah, 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 and everybody says, oh, there's only 1700 or something. We know this. However, when you look at the 12 presumptions that I've put on my website for years, it doesn't matter what number they're given. This is absolutely the presumptions that are in play in every single court you go in. So they have value regardless of the canon number. So we'll have a little look at that, because obviously as I put this case together, I'm coming across stuff from the past and things that I'm using, and so all the data I've put in so far has always been in the private, giving them the opportunity to deal with it in the private, but now of course we're going to the third hearing, it's in the public. So all change. You've got to keep, you've got to play, because it's a game of chess, but it's also a game of poker. And by that, what I mean is, you also want them to see you in a certain light, so they'll act in a certain way. So that I then get to see the games, I get to see the play. I also get to see what bothers them and what doesn't bother them. So it's chess and poker at the same time. Poker as in making them think something, oh, he's thick him, this guy, he's not cracked it proper, he's a bit thick. Oh, look, he's cocked it up there, he's a bit. Well, then they do something stupid themselves and you're like, well done, chap, you've just shown me you're a bunch of tossers, again. So chess and poker is the game, and it's all been in the private, now it's in the public, because we want a court of record for this hearing. So it's all changed. So we're going through, hang on, whoa! Somebody at do it? Well, don't go. Well, go ask who it is. Right, chaps. Just give us a sec, I'll just give you some news while I just go and
it starts with Israel attacking Iran. The plan is for either Iran or for China to retaliate after Iran is struck with a nuclear weapon. At that point, there will be a limited nuclear exchange in the Middle East, followed by a ceasefire. He heard this being planned in this meeting. This is being choreographed. The idea is that as the world looks upon this with horror, then they will demand from their governments that there are heavy controls over travel, over communication, over people who meet, over people who protest in the streets. And because people will be driven into fear by this, they'll request and demand and insist on heavy controls from their governments, which will be justified. And this is where you're going to kind of get the martial law situation in all the Western countries.
Damn. Sorry, chaps. That's somebody telling me there's no saying, I presume. Right, we're back on. I'm sorry about that. It's just, apparently there was somebody at the door that weren't there. It was nobody there. So, my apologies for that interruption. I'll kick her head in later and beat her with a stick. Right, is it on now? Oh, everybody's beeping. Oh, my phone's beeping. Yay, we're back now. Thanks for that, Johnny. Right. Whew. After that interruption, where were I? Oh, yeah. So obviously now this is the third, and we don't want to be doing any more court appearances at all. This has got to be the final one. 77 Brigade playing knock and run. It could be, actually. Yeah, you never know. I actually thought it might have been one of my sons, so I don't want to... So I had to go just in case. Anyway, there was nobody there. Mr. Ghost. I think the Flossie there is hearing things, so I will beat her with a stick later and stick her in the cellar for a couple of hours. Feed her porridge. So anyway, so yeah, we have to change things. Everything has to move up a gear now. We can't have them keep thinking that we're because we're done with that now. Now we have to get stuck in and say, "Hey, bollocks! What are you playing at here with all this malarkey? Who the hell do you think you're talking to?" Kind of stuff. So, the importance of tonight's shindig on the law, it's essential that everybody takes this on board, because this is actually what's going on in every court. And obviously, we've played a long game because we've reacted to everything they've done. In order, to be fair, to fully understand and grasp what they're actually up to. The more difficult one was with the female, of course, because she didn't want to go to court. So it was all paperwork. Suffice to say, they're stuck. You know, they're all blocked off. They can't do it. They can't move. But of course, this is the important one, and we've been going to court, and we're going to go again. So this is a very important data download for everybody, because you can do this from the get-go. Basically, you don't have to dilly-dally, as they said. But it's been a very interesting gig. So the rebuttal, as it were, goes in on the Tuesday, which is as has been ordered, and then we've got a period of time to the actual hearing where we can prepare to basically reference everything that's been done in paperwork vocally, because that again is equally important. You know, it's easier, let's say, to put paperwork together because you sat at your desk. You've got plenty of time to think, you've got time to study, you've time to research. However, when you're sat there in that court, it's all happening there and then, and you've got to have a wide knowledge of everything you have done and that they have done. Because if you get, this is where they can trip you up quite easily. And of course, that's what they're trying to do at all points, because they want to keep the positions. They want to keep the judge as executor and the prosecution as beneficiary, and that you are the hapless trustee disuntort. Yeah, that's what they're after at all points. They need it. They have to have it. So yeah, it's good. I'm confident. We've done everything correctly, even though, like they do, they ignore it. But it's an interesting piece of kit, and you all need to really get this in your mind if you're going to play with the devil in his own court, as it were. I do like the judge. I thought the judge was quite okay. But of course, it remains to be seen exactly just what party line he's actually playing. But the onus is on you, on us, isn't it, to move that court and not be a victim of it. So it's essential that whatever you do, paperwork, you can vocalise it as well in the court. And this is why I tend to try and keep things as simple as possible. You know, you can sit there all day and pull in 1,000 acts and statutes and this and that, but you sort of heading to trip yourself up. So less is always more. The less you've put in there, the less you have to deal with. And you've got to give yourself that chance. You've got to always give yourself every chance you can. So less is more. As long as it's potent and to the point, and you're not meandering off into la land. And the best way to do that is to basically only react and respond to what they've put forward. You know? And in that way, you're sort of answering their questions with a question. And that is so important if you want to give yourself a chance. You know, you always formulate whatever they present to you as a question back to them. Well, of course, as I said to you the other week, one of the court cases I had, first thing the old bat said was, don't answer a question with the question. And I'm thinking, well, that's pretty much screwed my game up, hasn't it, you flossy? Not that I took much notice of it, of course, but that's the way they go. Every trick going, they'll try to prevent you from holding your standing. But La Land. Interesting. So let's have a little gander at this bit of data that's now come out in relation to the LA fires. And of course, I need to flip you over to this. Wait a minute, I need to go in here myself. I need to put the volume up.
In Malibu, here it is.
Right.
We in the newsroom here have put together this incredible animation that shows the timeline of how this fire advanced through the communities of Pacific Palisades and Malibu. Here it is, January 7th at 6:17. It was at 2,900 acres. And then on January 8th, that explosion to 15,000 acres. And then the next day, 17,000 acres as it progressed into the mountains. And then on the 9th, 19,000 acres. And you can see how far it had gotten into Malibu. And then we come to yesterday at 20,000 acres. And you can see 20, and then to 21,000 acres. But you see how far across it spread, and all the way up to the 11th, which is today at 22,660 acres. This is just information from 7:30 a.m. today. We in the newsroom here have put together this incredible animation that shows the timeline of how this fire advanced through the...
Right, I'm doing all this wrong as usual.
Safe to be there. If you are not part of any sort of emergency personnel, you need to get yourself to safety. It's heartbreaking to hear that, you know, there are many people.
I mean, look at that. There's none of the trees are burning. These are grass fires, remember?
It's heartbreaking. It's
that
scary.
sneaked up on everything. There's no fire and
And
trees
Rick and
there,
Bob,
is there?
it's worth mentioning, and you mentioned it earlier, there are several people that are missing, reported missing, and we broke the news earlier this morning that homicide detectives and the medical examiner are now at two different locations where possible human remains have been found again. We're talking about rubble in Topanga. We're talking about another area in Altadena, and investigators are there. Obviously, it will be the medical examiner who determines if those are indeed human remains. We've already seen a resident of Malibu lose their life. Their human remains have not, as far as I know, been positively
Not a tree
identified,
burning.
but someone who lived with them said that that person
Not a
had
bit blade
chosen
of
to
grass
stay
burning.
behind to try to
But it's
protect
a-
their property.
it's a
The human
bushfire.
remains were found after
Yeah,
that
of course
person
it
was
is.
reported missing
should have had a blue roof.
by the roommate or the family, the loved one. And now the coroner, the medical examiner, is working to identify them. So
Now, let's look at the latest. Because we looked at it, didn't we, last week and showed that there's a reason for it, and that is that LA is down to be a smart city in readiness for the 2028 Olympics. Now,
On here, we pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event.
You've heard it said where there's smoke, there's fire. And of course, you've also heard it said wherever there's a smoking podcaster, there's a fire truck. Dang it.
To rebuild these communities back and rebuild them better than they were when we started this fire.
We've got thousands of National Guard men and women that have been on here. We pre-positioned 120 engines, helicopters, dozers, water tenders. We did that on Sunday, 2 days before this event.
You've heard it said where there's...
I mean, think about it, Charles. Just think about it. These bastards are setting fire to folks' houses and getting away with it. That's the degree to which the public now are so dumbed down and lost in relation to no cohesion. There's just... Your entire systems have been took over by these no-hides. And people just haven't got the capacity anymore to do anything about it. I mean, there you go, all pre-prepped. We started the fire, we're going to build it back better. Yeah, 2028 Olympics. And this is what they're doing. Now, you're watching this go on in the US. This is what they're going to do everywhere. So all these so-called, we're getting away from the cities and towns, oiky types up there in Cumbria, you know, you're all mashed together. Choil is another place where they've mashed you all together. You people that are terrified of your own shadows, and you're all grouped together. There's what they're going to be doing. That's what they're going to be doing. And it's just ridiculous that they can actually speak it and there's no uproar. There's just nothing. And that is an indictment on the populations. Just how dumbed down they are. How... What's the word I'm looking for? There's nothing to you anymore. Which is why 2020 happened and was a success. Completely destroyed the local business, completely changed the supply chain, and not a finger. I mean, these council operatives like Louise Shithouse, I can't remember her name again, responsible for the demolition of so many businesses, millions and millions and millions of pounds in lost revenue, in revenue that were never coming back. And she's waltzing about round here somewhere, thinking she's still fantastic and amazing. Well, she can, because nobody cares. Nobody's got that gumption anymore to take it to task. It's like, it really is. We have to look at ourselves as to why this is going on and why is going on at such a rate because there's nothing to stop it. Nothing. Louise Hilton. I mean, I will find out where you live when I have a look, and I will spread it across the internet. Make no mistake about it. Because you, woman, I don't know who you think you are, but you're not what you think you are, only while you've got no opposition. But you'll rue the day. You'll rue the day that you put me in a cage, woman. I'll tell you now. So yeah, you can see there blatantly. Pre-prep, 2 days before. National Guard, fire, everybody there ready. And that guy telling you that they burnt it down to build back better. People have died. Not every property that's been burnt is insured. It's a catastrophic event, and it's a beta test. Because if they can get away with it in California, they can get away with it anywhere. They can get away with it anywhere because they know the populations are not going to do anything about it. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. You've got all these diversions going on. You know, these farmers, blocking ports, blocking supply chain. Again, it's just so ridiculous that you're jumping on that. That's not what you do. You do what the French do and throw the shit at the council offices, at the councillors, the people that are doing this. You know, the corporate boys that are moving their system over and above your law, your rights, your freedoms, etc. Because nobody is enforcing their own rights, their own liberty. And those that should know better are all oathed to this system. And I don't even think they knew what they were oathing to, because they are the dumbasses, because they're the ones that are running on fear and will go anywhere that they believe and join anything that they believe will keep them safe in this next round of insanity. Because don't forget, the next demarcation line is 2025. Then it's 2030. You know, it's 5 years now since the bug script. 5 years. And look what it's done. It's demolished so many things and so many people. There's so many old people no longer with us. And then there are still left are in the right mess. Right down to the, youngsters. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But the more they do this, the more people are fixed to their own issues, their own problems, the less people there are that can actually get to grips and do something. So it's really sad that it's just so blatant now. So before we get into the law, there's another thing, another few images we want to look at. Now I've discussed this before, but you can see clearly that California was one of the second largest economy in the world at one point before they started to destroy Hollywood, because of the wealth that were generated through Hollywood. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the man that was charged to start to undermine that, and his policies, if you actually look at his policies, it's very clear that that's exactly what he was doing. Now, he was married to a Kennedy at that time. Arnie being Arnie is just a dumbass who will do anything to raise himself up to make his daddy proud, who of course was an SS officer. So corporatism, which is what fascism is in his blood. So he's definitely going to join, isn't he, the game to put their system of corporations over and above national law. And that's the role of the United Nations. They run around saying that they're there to keep peace. No, they're not. They're there to administer the war. This is why you don't get declarations of war anymore from countries. It just happens. And then it goes to the United Nations. And the United Nations then administers that war. So the United Nations is pulling in the Red Cross. It's pulling in all these charitable organisations so they can do the trafficking, so they can do the drug smuggling, the weapons selling. That's what's going on. And people, because they think the United Nations is something else, because they listen to the fruit bats on the telly, it just goes on and on and on, and nobody sees the game. I think people are starting to see it now, but it's a big step from seeing to doing. A big, big step indeed. And it's not a step that many people can take. And that is a fact. But it's just all moving at such a fast pace. And, you know, they've got their opportunity here is the fact that people are still ignorant of it. Are still afraid to look at it. They still want to stick to the little bubble as long as they can, so they don't actually have to face what's going on. But Hollywood is being destroyed deliberately. Now, there's a guy, I believe he's a flat earther, but the stuff I've put up, he doesn't show any signs on his title that he's a flat earther. And he's been running this theme of how people that are claimed to have died, stars, celebrities, actually become somebody else. So he's going through Elvis. He's even saying Elvis could even be Trump. It's like, I mean, okay, some of it's a bit ooh, and it could well be a diversion. But there is a semblance of truth in what he's suggesting, because some of the facial comparisons, especially the birthmarks, the moles, etc., do seem to carry. And he's saying Tupac is another particular rapper. And when you listen to this other rapper, he said that Tupac would bite a long time ago, himself. You've got all these different variations. You've got Ariana Grande, all these. So basically what they're saying is, this change in Hollywood in relation to giving these small acts more and more control, it makes sense, doesn't it, that if you can get one person playing 3 roles, that's less people to control, yet you out there still think you're getting all these varied celebrities to hate or love. And so that's a big part of what's going on in this takeover of what has always been the biggest method and means of influencing the people of the world, because Hollywood, you know, it's a global gig, isn't it? You know, what's made in Hollywood gets across the world. And so you've got the Diddy game going on, where all this exposure is going on, and it's based around murder. Well, if Tupac wasn't murdered, he just, as Intel, killed off that persona to become another, which is what they do. It's like with these false flags, you know, these people that are said to have died, well, it's only the persona that's died. And they go off into Intel on another role, whether it may be in another country, or they're going to get the full facelift and completely change the facial features. Yet the structure of the faces, when you put them together, can't be changed. You can only actually change the flesh. They can't or don't change the bone structure. And that's usually where they get caught out. So there's a lot going on, but it is about destroying Hollywood so that they can revamp it into this system that's 100% underneath the no-hide system. So all the editing they've been doing to all the old movies from the last 30 years, including placing chemtrails in some of the older movies, and editing all references to Israel or references to any kind of racial slurs, etc. They won't need to do that anymore, because everything that's going to come out of this new Hollywood is going to be 100% pure satanic. It's exactly how it's going to be. So they're destroying the old, getting rid of the stars, and implementing these new individuals who are playing more or multiple roles. Now, in the background, around the Diddy game, you've got 50p or 50 Cent and various other so-called do-gooders. Look at me, I was never a part of all that malarkey. Let me take over Jay-Z's role. Let me take over Diddy's role. Then now you can see you've got Mel Gibson. Now Sly Stallone has tallied himself in with Mel Gibson. You've got Mark Wahlberg. You've got Voight now. You've got so they're now moving in these new, look at us, we're rebels, and we're going to come in and take over Hollywood, so you can all sit back and think it's all going hunky-dory. Yet, you know, look at Mel Gibson. What did he fall foul for? Telling it as it is. But now you look at what he's doing, he's getting money off Musk. Musk is 100% Rockefeller funded. He's a frontman for Rockefeller Empire. Bill Gates the same. And Gibson's taking money off Elon Musk. Trump's now promoting Elon Musk, but not only Elon Musk, Sly Stallone, Mel Gibson, all being pulled in under this wing of King Cyrus and the Noahide system. So they're trying to blag everybody now that they're going to rejig Hollywood. They've got rid of the filth and the scum, and in come these hoity-toity Catholics. Remember, they're all Catholics, this Gibson, Stallone, Wahlberg, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Because, of course, people that are not Catholic haven't realised that actually all the Catholics left the Vatican, the church system, through the 70s and 80s because they could see that the small hats had took it over and the Vatican too was in fact a Talmudic system. So the real Catholics left the Vatican system and they created their own see. And these guys are coming in now as we're Catholics. Well, no. Anybody that's claiming they're Catholic and still affiliated to this Vatican system today is clearly showing itself to be a Talmudic system and operating in accordance with this Noahide system. And that is too much for people. They can't see through that. Catholic people need to remain Catholic as they are and outside that system, because that system is the means by which they're going to pull in this New World Order, this specifically to the finance and to the religion. And bearing in mind that the Vatican system is subservient to the Holy See families. The Holy See families, of course, being the bankers. Okay, the banking families, Aldo Brandini, Farnese, Pallavicini, Breakspear, and all the rest. They're the system. Rothschilds are just the court financiers for those hidden, you might say, monarchs. And of course, through Napoleon, they demolished the monarchic system across Europe, the old school Christian system. They kept the British monarchy system going because, of course, that was fronting the empire. And so, under this fat fingers, that's been demolished because it's England now that's no monarch. UK, and meaning Scotland, does have a monarch. But England doesn't. It has no representation at all. The Welsh have a representation, Northern Ireland has its own representation, Scotland has representation, all taking place in Westminster. But England has no representation whatsoever. And people are missing this. People are not savvy with this. And Tommy Robinson may talk about England. Tommy Robinson acts for this Noahide system. And he's there to foment anger and hatred between the English and the Muslims. And of course, he's based most of his stuff on fact and truth. Let's not pretend otherwise. But it's the way in which it's presented. It's the way in which it's moved forward. You know, it doesn't offer up educated nonsense, because I don't think he's ever even read the Quran. He just runs on sound bites that he's worked out and experienced in his own Luton, as it were. But as Nick Griffin said, Nick Griffin explained the whole system to you when the British National Party, as it was originally, to which Tommy Robinson was a part, the ADL, or Mossad, approached Griffin and said, look, we'll back you, we'll fund you, you just have to stop attacking Israel and all will be well. Now Nick Griffin said, well, I'm sorry, I represent these islands, so I can't take up your offer. And from that moment on, Nick Griffin was annihilated as a character assassination. Now, Tommy Robinson, on the other hand, was approached as also by the same forces. And he said, yeah, let's party, and created the EDL. And people don't remember this, but this is exactly how it went. The British, I mean, if you actually listen or read some of the works of Nick Griffin, and I don't claim to have read it all, but over the years, there's been times when I've had a look at what he's written. You can't fault what he speaks. You can fault his language, i.e. British, not realising it's an occupation title and represents the empire. But outside of that, outside of taking apart the language, because most people don't understand the language trickery, because if you do it there, I think you need to realise and tap yourself on the head, you're a long way down seeing through the wizardry. Because not everybody sees the games that are played through language. So if you do, give yourself a pat on the back because you are way advanced in seeing through this game that's playing out everywhere. So now clearly you've got Elon Musk. Clearly up the arse of Trump, or probably thinks he's above Trump. Take it as you will. Now I think he probably is going to at some point overtake Trump, because probably Trump will be either removed or they'll feign his death and his murder, etc., etc. Something down the line's coming, you can tell that. Because now they're going to up and out everything that they know everybody's waiting to see, to hear, to feel, to watch happen. Because they forgot who launched Operation Warp Speed. I think people have forgot that for some strange reason. Subconscious hasn't forgotten it, but people's conscious minds has completely eradicated it from the game, because they want to believe, they want to worship, they want to all praise to this system, and that's how they gather the energy. So you've got Elon Musk, you've got Trump. Trump's now surrounded himself entirely with the Zionist massive, which is worrying. Elon Musk's in there, and now Elon Musk tied himself to Mel Gibson, the so-called Catholic rebel. But what it shows is that the whole shebang with Mel Gibson back in the day was either real, but he's shook the shit and kissed the feet to play another role because he didn't like not being famous, because they're a bit like that, some of these celebrities. Or from the get-go, it was the beginnings of a scam in order to present him as a controlled opposition. Not that you were supposed to know he was controlled, but clearly he is. And I'm going to show you why in a second. But Trump now is pushing and supporting Stallone, Mel Gibson, Voight, and the others that are tied into that. So, as ambassadors for Hollywood. So you can see that this whole game that's been going on in the last, maybe 10 years, is to demolish what was the old Hollywood, a bit like they did in John Wayne's time, and that's what John Wayne was whinging about, that the fact that he called them communists were taking over Hollywood, changing the whole ethos of it. And he was right, they were, and they did. Well, now it's coming to its finale, and they are now completely usurping it, and they're going to rejig it, rechange it, and all that's going to get pumped out of that system is Lady Gaga and all the filth and smut and satanic nonsense that goes with these new celebrities. And that's exactly what they're doing. And if they can fool you that this bunch of Johnny-come-latelys who you still believe are good and, operating in accordance with morality and all this garbage, you need to think again, because straight away they're deceiving you. They're coming at you and saying, I'm this, when they're not. That's a deception. That and that alone shows you that they're not the people that they want you to think they are. They're there to serve a purpose, and that is to blag you that Hollywood's been taken over by sound and moral people, and that you should carry on now buying everything that pumps out of it. And it's really sad that that is working. Now, is it working because the media are keeping up this divisive game between left and right, and that pushes it? It sort of becomes the only energy that's on the table when people are focused to politics today in the US. And is that what's making it look like it's bigger than it is? Or is a massive chunk of the populations of the world actually in support of this, offering them their energy because they believe that Trump, etc., for America? Well, you just have to go back to the interview that we presented last year between Abe Finkelstein. He tells you exactly as it is. He tells you exactly what's going on in the US, that the US is about to be destroyed because it's been milked to its maximum, and that they're building up Russia, they're building up China, because in between Russia and China, you've got Kazakhstan. you've got the home of the Mongols, the home of the Khazars, the Tartars, the people that were classed by Western civilizations, if you look at history for a couple of hundred years ago, as cruel peoples. These are the hordes that are the offshoots of Genghis Khan. And Genghis Khan, of course, had the entire Venetian aristocracy under his control, and from which they took over the entire Western Europe. It took a long time, but they've achieved it. They handed over Byzantium to the Persians, who then created a caliphate in order to mimic the Sunni Islamic systems that were operational in North Africa. Everything's a scam and a blag, and they only need 100 years distance between the events and the propaganda that they've pumped out for that 100 years, that the generations then 100 years are no different. You only get to find that if you go seeking it yourself. And of course today it's getting more and more difficult because people seek everything through the internet, whereas before it was books and it was libraries. But again, they were controlled by such as Carnegie. You look at most British libraries, they were Carnegie funded, which of course again is another aspect of the Rockefeller Empire, subservient again to the Rothschilds. So the court financiers, the Rothschilds, to the Holy See families, you can see all the branch managers across the world, the Rockefellers, all the aristocrats from the European countries, and in Blighty. But of course, the might of America, and this is what a lot of people miss, is the fact that because the English were so involved in the American continent before the Civil War, that so many of what were English aristocrats made far more wealth in America than they ever did here. And of course, they didn't have a kingship system, so they didn't have to be obedient to a kingship. So for these sort of vain and arrogant aristocrats, moving across to America was just it was freedom from the yoke from the monarchy system, which was essential because, of course, the British monarchy system wasn't going to be demolished until Elizabeth popped her clogs. So they had to keep the front going for the empire. Yet the empire in and of itself was only headquartered here. You know, Pakistan is a creation of the empire. It was the British Empire, or the East India Companies, in there to petition and take a big chunk of India away from the Indians and pull in the Persian races, and then they called it Pakistan. And Pakistanis operate for the empire. The Indians operate for the empire. The Chinese operate for the empire. All this mass immigration, they're operating under the empire. But they see the empire as British Isles. They see the empire as United States. Well, they're no more or no less a part of the empire than they themselves are, because the empire took over their peoples centuries ago and have used them ever since. That's how the empire works. It's its own thing. And the reason why it keeps going and becomes so powerful is because it snakes about, it shifts and it's unseen. Because people, when you're gaining something, whether it's pets mean prizes, or money, or power, or influence, it's very easy to not see that you're actually a part of the imperial forces, and that is exactly what's giving you what it is. You're content to keep your mouth shut, or not so much keep your mouth shut, not allow yourself to see that that's exactly what you're doing. So these immigrants who are working for the empire have come over here to destroy the empire. How odd's that? You know, but that's the mentality today. That's the reason why they've got where they've got, is because they've got the entire world population way below par in relation to what we perhaps once was. Now, just have a look at the... I've got a bloody right tickly cough. And I'm dripping, so my apologies. But this cough, I seem to be getting one cough after another. It's quite ridiculous, really. I'm due with the spraying. And it's coming through the spraying. As I say, I've been on a roof, so I'm going to get it a little bit easier on there. Right then. So, I've seen the buzz about the partnership between Unwoke Studios and Elon Musk, and yes, it's true, we're working on something exciting, says Mel Gibson. It's a project driven by creative innovation and a vision to bring meaningful stories to the screen But let me be clear, my personal life and professional endeavours are two very different things. As a person, I face challenges just like everyone else. While the studio might be on an upward trajectory, I have my own commitments, responsibilities and battles behind the scenes. What you see on the surface doesn't always reflect what's happening in the background, says Mel Gibson. Now, Trump names Mel Gibson, Jon Voight and Sylvester Stallone as ambassadors to Hollywood. So you can see clearly there, Mel Gibson is full of shit to be claiming that he's anti-Jewish while operating for it. Now, of course, I use the term lightly because those are people that are claiming to be Jewish, but certainly are not because they follow the Talmud. Now, there you've got Mel Gibson as a member of the World Economic Forum, actor, and his PR is Rogers and Cohen. Okay? So there is who Mel Gibson acts for. Now, whether it's always been so, or as I said, he couldn't stand not being in the limelight and kiss the feet and everything else that you have to do to get back in. So there you go. World Economic Forum. And of course, we know that isn't it the case that when they need heroes, they present them. Things worth remembering about Zionism of Martin Luther King's. As a shaky peace settles over Israel once more, it is imperative for all who believe in democracy to remember King's words. Peace for Israel means security, and that security must be a reality. Just another puppet. Now, that guy would shag everybody's wives. Wherever he went on his tours, men were scared because he would fuck their wives. Imagine going to sleep every night knowing you could cure world hunger and global homelessness and still have more money than you could ever spend, and yet you actively choose not to. So there you've got Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and is that Thiel? I don't know what they're trying to show you there, but they're just front men. They're little children, little infants. They have nothing of their own. But as long as you believe the power and sitting atop these empires, the game works. And he says, through all of this, I want to take a moment to appreciate someone very special in my life. She's been there throughout the roughest patches, always showing love, patience, and unwavering support. You know who you are, and I'm endlessly grateful for you. That's his missus. To everyone out there, thank you for your interest and support and your curiosity. The journey ahead is bright, but like any road worth travelling, it has challenges. Stay tuned for more on the project. It's going to be something special. With gratitude, Mel. And he's calling himself unwoke. So, of course, they're pitching themselves against everything we believe to be left. So, Antifa, wokeism, paedophilia, all this nonsense. And so you can pretty much see the game that's playing out here. If you're not stuck on one side or the other, that you're actually just using your own discernment, and you can see clearly this is the play. And this is how it always plays. They offer up the controlled opposition, give them 1 billion likes, 1 billion followers, then they have to pretend that they're being attacked, otherwise it doesn't look real. It's all pretense. Joe Rogan, all the attack and all this malarkey, it's just acting. The actors acting. And every now and again, they have to make it look real, and so there'll be launched an attack on them, and you believe it. It's quite ridiculous, but, I've been in this game a long time, so you can see through all the patterns. Because that's basically what it is, it's pattern. They're just patterns that these people use. And they don't change. They always use the same format. Of course, it changes in time because they have different tools and different toys. But the essence of the script, it doesn't change. And it hasn't changed from the way that they took over Germany from 1923, when they started to re-educate the children to become brown shirts, which, of course, began here in 1997 and the launch of New Labour, when they started to programme the children to be green shirts for this climate extravaganza. Same format, different tools, different organisations, different faces, but the strategy does not change, and it doesn't change because it works. So, a partnership between Unwoke Studios and Elon Musk is what Mel Gibson's bigging up himself up there to be. And Mark Wahlberg there is another Catholic. So they want you to think that the Catholics, under this Jesuit Francis, are somehow in rebellion. I don't believe so, Mr. Gibson. I think you're full of shit. I think you're a liar. And that's the way it is. And now you've got Trumpet there naming Mel Gibson. And Sylvester Stallone, you know, I can't believe Rambo has fucking gone for this. I mean, for God's sake, what are you playing at? I've just been watching your Tulsa thing. I mean, you play a really good role in that, but now we can see why you're playing this role of a good guy again. Because you want to sucker up everybody to believe that you're a good guy. It's ridiculous. I don't believe you're that stupid, you know? You can't be that stupid to not know what Hollywood is, to not know what Hollywood's been, to not know how Hollywood's changing, to actually be suckered into playing this role unwittingly. I can't accept that. It's not. It doesn't make sense. I mean, if you ever study Martin Luther, his personal life, that guy went out of his way to shag everybody's wives everywhere he went. And in front of them, he would take the wives of them. That's the kind of guy he were. Well, there you go. Who were he working for? Everything's all about Israel's mighty. Israel has to be everything, Israel. They're just put up there when it's required. When you need an hero out there, they come in and give you one. And now anybody can see them fucking pricks as anything other than little infants doing what they're told. You know, you deserve everything that's coming down the line, in my opinion. What can I say to that? So there's there's one more here I've got on Musk, which you've probably seen some of it. But you've got to take this on board of what exactly they're saying, because if you remember the video that I presented the other week, where that female was saying that she reported this trafficking gig, that this family from Africa came, she were expecting 3 black people, actually it were 3 white people. Well, does he look white? He's more Mongolian, isn't he? He's more of this Genghis Khan featured kind of a character. That they came over because this kid had done something so evil, it were outrageous, they had to leave South Africa. Well, El Elyon, this young kid were called back in the day, and it turns out to be this fella.
And then, in the meantime, Elon Musk just changes his name. So Elon changed his name to Kekius, which is a demonic god of darkness. He's also wearing Roman garb because he's anticipating the revived Roman Empire, also known as the Beast System. Hey, you know, the same guy who dressed up in his Satan outfit for Halloween, he now calls himself Kekius, after the demonic god of darkness. So I've seen so many people posting how they're just in love with Elon Musk. He's such a hero now. It's like, oh, you have no idea what's going to happen. Kek, the Egyptian god, symbolism, origin, and depictions. Kek is an ancient Egyptian god symbolizing darkness and obscurity, often depicted as a frog-headed figure. In partnership with his consort, Kauket, they represent primordial darkness. In modern times, Kek ironically symbolizes the far-right movement. Yeah, Elon Kek, the Egyptian god of darkness. Looks like dark MAGA will rise in 2025. All while he completely mocks us, clearly showing who he is and who he aligns himself with. Backed and supported by the Antichrist spirit, we are witnessing the beast system going live.
This guy right here is mocking us as we continue to see his obsession with ancient Egyptian deities as he changed his name on X to Kekius Maximus. And as we can see right here, he replies to a New York Post article on his name change with the reply, Kek. And I guess it's just a coincidence that Kek is the Egyptian god of darkness. And as we can see right here, the image of Kek is a frog-headed god. As we see from one of the greatest propaganda accounts on X, Doge Designer, he asked Grok to generate an image of Elon looking into a mirror, and what does he see? He sees Kek. the frog-headed deity. I mean, I'm sure there's no significance at all to this, and I guess it's just a coincidence how the Illuminati playing card game that came out in the 90s had a card after the frog god. And as we can read, the idols are both frightening and silly. The silly part here really sticks out because apparently Keck is also slang for LOL or ha ha ha, and that is because he is mocking and laughing straight at us.
I mean, come on, what are they going at with these? And probably it's the younger ones. They don't know their ass from their elbow. They really don't. It's there for you to be seen. It's just there to be seen. They're not even hiding it anymore. It's so out there. It's quite ridiculous. But people are sucking it up. They're sucking it up like you wouldn't believe. Right, that's enough of La La Land. It's had 58 minutes, and that's way too much in my opinion. Now let's get into some groovy stuff. Now, excuse me. So, I mean, this has been on my website for aeons. The Code of Canon Law we call the 12 Presumptions of Court. Now, your public record, public service, public oath, immunity, summons, custody, court of guardians, court of trustees, dual role, false executor, incompetence, guilt, expanded. Okay, so I'll put that up under, of course, but the main guts of what we're going to discuss today is this. Breaking assumption and presumption. Can you see that okay? You can. Right. It says, a lot of you that follow common law know that when you're in court, the courts aren't operating truthfully. They're operating in a false sphere, in a way that they're using assumptions and presumptions, known and unknown, that you don't even know about. Thus, if you don't rebut all of these in court, they stand as truth, because anything not rebutted stands as truth. So it's important to know what it is they're doing. Your paperwork must reflect this, as must your rhetoric in court. Now, so I've said before, all court documents or any documents that I send into the court, I'm demarcating who it's addressed to and who it's addressed from. So addressee, addressor. That way, it's a sort of declaration. And all you need to use in your communication is referencing you is the addressor. You don't have to keep going, I, me. You know, it simplifies it. But more importantly, you're making a declaration of to whom you're speaking to, and you're making a declaration as to who you are. And you keep that as sacrosanct in all your communications. There is your solemn declaration in and of itself. Okay, and that they ignore it, but it can't be rebutted if you're prepared to go all the way. Now, asking for all the participants' bond certificates or a certified true copy before you even agree to do business in their house, because they all have to be bonded, and you were supposed to be afforded the ability to look at those bonds. If you ask for them, of course, they won't give them to you, because for the simple reason that you can go ahead and actually lien a bond. If you've been harmed, it's a very powerful tool, okay? I mean, a lot of people are trying liens and doing all sorts, but the problem is it's the enforcement of it. Now, there are methods, but we'll not go into that today. The 12 presumptions and assumptions of a Roman court do not operate according to any rule of law, but by the presumption of law. Therefore, if presumptions presented by the private bar guild are not rebutted, they become fact, and therefore said to be standing in truth. Truth in commerce, because these courts are today commercial. They're all corporations. There are 12 key presumptions and more. But those are the key ones asserted by the private bar guilds, which if unchallenged stand true. Public record, public service, public oath, immunity, summons, custody of court of guardians and court of trustees all operate with the government as executive beneficiary. Okay? Or executive desuntort. And that incompetence in guilt, which is debt, is German for debt, etc. The presumption of public record translates to any matter brought before a lower Roman court and is a matter for the public record, when in fact it is presumed by the members of the private bar guild society or the lawyers that the matter is a private bar guild business matter unless you openly rebut and reject it. By stating clearly that the matter is to be on the public record, it remains private and you want it on the public record. That's why it's important that all documents you send in say on there somewhere that it's a matter of public record. Put them right. Now, when I were in court after that arrest, the first thing we did was sent in a letter to state I was making a special appearance. The second was that we required a court of record. Now, in this that we've done, in this last 11 months now, it's almost 12 months, all the paperwork that I've put in, I've noted it private because I were always giving them the opportunity to come to a private settlement. What's that shown us is they just run riot on that. Now, that's fine, and that again, like I said, it's chess and it's also poker. You want to make them think you're doing this or that you're at this level in order you can pull something more out of them. I mean, and I've seen every trick now that they've played in these games of the courts, the receivers. I've seen the game. I've seen it all. It's been quite horrific to see the degree to which they'll play dark, but I've pulled them on everything. I've pulled them on it all. They've not got away with it in the sense that it's not been hidden. Now, what happens after is another matter. But anyway, it says, therefore, if presumptions presented by the private bar guild are not rebutted, they become fact and therefore said to be standing in truth. Truth in commerce, because these courts are today commercial, which you know already. They are all corporations. There are 12 key presumptions and more, but those are the key ones, asserted by the private bar guilds, which if unchallenged stand true. Let's put, we've done that, haven't we? Have I written that? Yeah, I have done that, haven't I? My apologies. So although it would be wise to put it all on your paperwork, it doesn't really matter as long as when it comes to A lads A, you can shift. Because you remember, it is a battle. You're doing battle, but you're supposed to, you were transferred from killing each other to a level playing field, which we know today isn't. When you go into court, there's no level playing field there. But in its origin, it was there to stop people killing each other, especially feudal lords on blood feuds, which all the firstborns of each aristocratic family were getting killed. And so this system was set up to sort of start to arbitrate disputes, land disputes usually. Now, the second presumption of public service is that all members of the guilds of the bar society have all sworn solemn oath to their guild, but then they act as a public agent of the government or public officials, making additional oaths of public office that openly and deliberately contradict their private superior oath. In essence, we have a conflict of interest. So when you're asking if there's a conflict of interest, you're looking at this as the prime conflict, because they don't want you to know. Now, they're not in it's not a contradiction in the sense that they've took a private oath and this other oath is taken in the public. They separate themselves. There's private, there's public, yeah? There's the private you, and there's the public persona, which you know is the straw man. Okay, the person, the human. The representation of the deceased estate that's created on the placenta. Okay, we know this. So, in essence, they're not in a fraud because the private oath is to the bar guild and that sanctions the game that they're allowed to play operating under the fiction. And so they're doing nothing different to what we do when we come in claiming to be that fiction. And I think once you can start to get away from this idea that everything they're doing is a fraud by its very nature, you step down off that war mode and you start to play the game a bit more. And that, for me, as I said before, is where when I changed that, that's when I started to make headway, not only in the play, but also in my comprehension of the game. Now this, there we go, hang on, we've done that one. Where are we? So yeah, in essence, we have a conflict of interest. A big one, unless you openly rebut and reject the claim that these private bar guild members are legitimate public servants. Because that's where, from our perspective, if you're trying to enforce your nation, then because they're attached to these private guilds, then they're not real representatives of state offices, okay? And that's where you could say there's a conflict of interest, because it's the private pushing its will into the public without necessarily taking the fixed oath to the public office, which is what people used to have to do. Well, I don't think they have to do that anymore. They take the oath directly to the monarch. Unless you only openly rebut and reject the claim that these private bar guild members are legitimate public servants and therefore trustees under public oath, it stands as a truth. Because the moment you become a government agent, you have took up the role of a trustee, by definition. But these guys are not doing that. They're playing a crafty game. But they're playing a crafty game based on the fact that we're coming in and agreeing to it. Even though it's ignorant agreement, it's still our agreement. So if you can look at it like, just separate it slightly and say, yeah, that's the reality, the de jure. But the de facto is the fact that everybody else here is coming in this fiction, and that they've set up a system in which they can deal with that fiction. And if you can start to see it like that, you don't get as angry. You're actually seeing the mechanic, and that'll help you to formulate your responses. It'll help you to formulate your presence in the game rather than being subject to the game. Okay. Now, so they have two oaths. Their highest oath is to the law society, or to the guild, to the bar society. Their public oath is basically a fraudulent sham. It doesn't apply to them because you can't hold two offices at the same time. Now, this is where we're referencing the biblical script, because of course all this system, whether you like it or not, is based entirely in the biblical tradition. Now, in the Bible it says you cannot serve two masters. And it's quoted from the KJV. It says, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. Okay, and that's Matthew 6:24-26. Okay? So that's a very important parable in relation to principle or maxim of law. Okay, it's there and clear to be said, but because we don't know that that's what's going on, because nobody reads the Bible anymore, because we've been taught that it's all garbage, who's in a position to hold them to that? You know? It's the same thing in law. The presumption of public oath is that all members of the private bar guild acting in capacity of public officials have been sworn a solemn public oath to remain bound by that oath, and therefore have to serve honestly, impartially and fairly as dictated by their oath. Unless openly challenged and demanded by you, the presumption stands that the private bar guild members, which is the lawyers and the judge, have functioned under the public oath, in contradiction to their guild oath. If challenged, such individuals must recuse themselves. If challenged, if being the key word, such individuals must recuse themselves as having a conflict of interest. And it's a big, big issue. They cannot possibly stand under a public oath and the private oath. So it's basically case closed. I don't say dismissed. I like to use dissolved, because dissolved means it can never be brought forth into the public realm again. The presumption of public oath is that all members of the private bar guild, acting in their capacity of public officials, have sworn a solemn public oath to remain bound by that oath. Make sure that you challenge that oath, and first of all find out what the oath is. So back in the Freeman days, we'd ask them if they were on their oath, and some of us would say, can you recite that oath? I mean, of course, that's when they'd run out. But for you to understand this in its reality gives you authority, you know. And so make them say it under oath. So you would do this in the court. Make them say it in the court for the record. Get a certified true copy of it where they sign it saying that this is their oath and they are operating under it. Well, good luck with that. But that would be in the spirit of that sort of agenda. But good luck with that, you know. Make sure that you challenge that oath, and first of all, find out what that oath is. Make them say it under a blah, 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 just like that. Consider standing in court holding up Black's Law 5th edition in the left hand, and in the right hand, the Oxford Dictionary. Say to the judge, which one are we going off here today? I'd like to know what book we're following, because I don't know what jurisdiction we are operating to. Of course, they know they are presuming and assuming you are incompetent, an infant even, that they must represent you or represent you because, of course, you're dead. They have a presumption of immunity. Now, I take them off their presumed immunities in my communications. Not always, depending on what I'm communicating. Whereby the key members of the private bar guild in the capacity of public officials acting as judges and prosecutors and magistrates who have sworn a solemn public oath in good faith are immune from personal claims of injury and liability. See, they think that they're untouchable, but in fact that's not the case if they are openly challenged and their oath is demanded. Otherwise, the presumption stands that the members of the Bar Guild Society as public trustees, acting as judges, prosecutors and magistrates, are indeed immune from any personal accountability for their actions. It's all about what you put in your communications, ladies and gentlemen. They are trying to pin the title of the person, or nail you to the cross, in order we assume all the liability and the debt. We are the slave, the serf. You are there as the dead entity. And that's why lawyers say that they are there to represent you. Because you're dead fiction. They have to represent you to the court unless you rebut that presumption. Then they're immune. If you see, this is the thing. Once you've rebutted it, that presumed immunity is gone. So if you put that in your paperwork, you rebut that. You see, you're rebutting everything. And it's been a case of rebut this, leave them that. Then the next one is rebut this, and this, and leave them that. And you can see them like rats in the corner, slowly, until they cease. They shoot. And that's what I've learned in this 11 months. Just keep creeping it up one at a time. Add another one there and they're like, oh, until you get them in that corner, and they're like, oh, checkmate. Okay. So that's the chess basis, but there has to be a bit of poker face going on as well to get them to react by thinking that you're his thick. Oh, look at he doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. And then you get them to act cocky, because they are cocky, you know. And slowly but surely you move it, and boom, they're in checkmate. And that's satisfying. It's very satisfying. So once, what you want to do, so that's one you want to do, the presumption of summons. And this is covered under the denial of service and acceptance of claim based upon proof of claim. Acceptance of truth based on proof of claim. Presumption of summons is so by custom. A summons unrebutted stands, and therefore one who attends court is presumed to accept a position. Remember, they're always assigning titles and roles. So just by you being at that court, you are presumed to have accepted the position of defendant, juror, witness, and jurisdiction of the court stands. An attendance to court is usually an invitation by summons. Unless the summons is rejected and returned as a denial of service, proof of claim with a copy of the rejection action filed prior to choosing to visit or attend under the jurisdiction and position as the accused, whereby the existence of guilt stands as the truth, that's important to know if you get dragged into their court. Make sure you file with the court clerk that you are rebutting the presumption, that you are in any way, shape or form holding a position or a title. You are there merely as a man or woman. The presumption of custody is that by the custom of summons or warrant for arrest, unrebutted stands, and therefore anyone who attends court is presumed to be a thing, and therefore liable to be detained in custody by custodians. This includes the dead legal fiction, the non-human person. Well, non-human, it's actually the human person. See, even in the game, people still haven't grasped the fact that it's the human that's the construct, and the human is then afforded all the rights of person. Not people, person. So human is the construct. It is the monster that they're corralling to place into the no-hide trust. Where's that? Where am I? Oh, well, I've got lost there. That's it. Remember, corporate government rules and regulations are written that custodians may only lawfully hold custody of property and things, not flesh and blood or soul. Now we'll read that again. Custodians may only lawfully hold custody of property and things. Again, rebut the assumption that you are a thing, unless this presumption is openly challenged by rejection of summons. Returning it, the presumption stands. You are a thing in property and therefore lawfully able to be kept in custody by custom, and the presumption of the court of guardians is a presumption that you may be listed as a resident or a ward of a local government area. Now, I've said this before. It's the address that binds you, and the fact that that address is registered on the land registry, again, a corporate entity. But you see, there's a blind adhesion contract in that, and that is the postcode, which is a military code, and it's administered by the land government, which is the post office. Okay, so the post code is a military code. The word post is in it for the simple reason that that code, the military code, is operated by the post office, which is the government on the land, due to the occupation. So that's a blind adhesion contract. The fact that your property has been registered on the land registry, again, is a blind adhesion contract. Your national insurance number is a blind adhesion contract. Claiming to be a resident is a blind adhesion contract, and not an inhabitant, which is what you want to be, because of course in the Local Government Act it's very clear that when the councils took on the corporate mantle, that they also took on the liabilities and debts of the inhabitants. So they're not the inhabitants' debts, but once that took place, they converted you from inhabitant to resident, and therefore subject to the conversion of the council's liabilities onto your person. Now, this is all the kind of stuff that we've been playing with in this court case, but in a manner that made them think, they're just really not into it. You know, you've got to play the poker face with these people. Listed on your passport. So the presumption that you may be listed as a resident or a ward of a local government area as listed on your passport. Because what are you? A British citizen, aren't you? Or a citizen of a community. Because that's another way they trap you. These are all titles, but they're also blind adhesion contracts. Unless the presumptions are openly challenged, such as you demonstrate you're not a citizen and you are not a resident, it stands, and therefore, if it stands, they've got you because they've applied a title to you and you have unknowingly re-accepted the title. So if you say, I'm not Mr., but I'm a resident, yeah, title again, you've took it on. Because as you add to a name, it changes the jurisdiction, which is why your given names have to have a surname added to it. Changes the whole gig. The presumption of Court of Trustees is that the members of the private guild presume and accept the office of trustee as a public servant and government employee just by attending their court. Okay, so they are by default, while they're claiming to be an agent of the Crown, or the government, which is an agent of the Crown, they are trustees in the de jure system. But we're not in the de jure, we're in the de facto. Okay? Such courts are always for public trustees by the rules of the guild in the Roman system, unless the presumption is rebutted and in open court challenged to state that you are merely visiting by invitation to clear up the matter and you are not a government employee or public trustee in this instance. The presumption stands as it is assumed. It is assumed the most significant reason to claim jurisdiction over you is due to your appearance. This is how they get you. Now, yeah, I said to you before that the first battle when you enter the court is with the judge because he's trying to claim jurisdiction over you. And the main play is that they will state that, well, if Mr. Such and such a body's not present, we'll have to continue without him. And the rebuttal to that was, well, if the court's going to record that as a fact, then it must also record the fact that the plaintiff is not here in court because he's got a third party there representing him, and that's all the hearsay. No first-hand witness. The plaintiff is the one that's the first-hand witness, and you, if you have the right to question the plaintiff. He's not there. Everything his third party says is hearsay because he's representing the other guy. So that's your first battle to get through. Then it's more a case of consider that you're at battle with the prosecution as opposed to the judge. And you do that by you coming in with more valid points to move the court or the judge than slick. So the presumption of courts say, yeah, done that. Such courts are always... Done that. So that's the best advice you're ever going to get. It works by way of the assumption of government acting in two roles. As the executive, so the judge, in the fiction, as soon as you walk in as the trustee de some tort, so you're pretending to be a trustee, but really you're not even a trustee because you're stupid, incompetent, and dead. So you're a trustee de some tort. So that gives the role of executor de some tort to the judge and beneficiary to the prosecution. So that's the flip. Okay, that's where they're flipping it. Yeah, and because of course you're in debt, you're not being heard, court's going to rule, so the beneficiary gets the benefit and they can charge court costs and fees. Win-win, because it's all corporate, it's all commerce. And they're going to dip into your estate, but they're also going to make you pay with a debt instrument, because of course the settlement of the debt comes in the discharge of the debt through them dipping into your estate in the backroom side of these things. In the private, in the public, you're going to pay for a debt with a debt instrument, which is absolute nonsense. For a start, it doesn't work. So, in that sense, this so-called national debt is garbage. It's a fantasy. And that governs finance and economics. Where are we there? So the judge becomes the executor and the beneficiary is the prosecution. In that, for that matter at hand, the private bar guild appoints the judge or the magistrate in the capacity of executor, while the prosecutor acts in the capacity of beneficiary. And you become the hapless trustee de some tort. That's the flip. What most people don't understand or stand under is the fact that they're on the same team, meaning them two. So how do you know they're on the team, and how do they play both roles? It's because you didn't rebut the presumption, because you didn't know. Unless the presumption won't be challenged and you demonstrate you're both the general guardian and the general executive of the matter before the court, the presumption stands. Well, you don't have to use those terms, but that's basically what you're going to be doing. The presumption stands and you are by default trustee because there's only one position left. So if the judge is the executor, the prosecution is the beneficiary, what other role is there? Just you, hapless trustee. You're liable, you're holding the legal title. So this would be the very first thing you would do if you had to stand in the court. You don't cross the bar. So the presumption of executive de some tort is the presumption that if the accused does not seek to challenge by asserting their right as the executive and beneficiary, or settler as we use, over their body, mind and soul, they are acting as an executive de some tort or false executive challenge the right for the judge as the executor. So if you don't do it correctly, you're actually challenging the judge. He's going to get cross. Or she's going to get cross. Therefore, the judge magistrate assumes the role of the true executive and has the right to have you arrested, detained and fined or forced into a psychiatric evaluation, which is what they've been doing for a very long time. My old mate Danny Patronymic were helping a lot of those people that had got slammed with that. That's the trump card. They pull whenever they don't know what to do, when they're losing, unless this presumption is openly challenged by not only asserting one's position as executive, but also to question if the judge or magistrate is seeking to act as an executive. You should ask the judge, are you seeking to act as an executor in this matter? They're going to presume they are, and it says that the private bar guild may seek assistance of the bailiffs or the sheriffs to assert their false claim, and they do they not? Unless you remind them that you'll have them for assault. On this point of executive de some tort, it is the fact that as corporations, which they are as of 2008, the courts therefore operate under corporate law, and what people don't get and what men and women don't stand under or they don't comprehend is the fact that because they are a corporation, they're bound by corporate law. One of those corporate laws is that they cannot practice law. They have no authority to practice law. That a contract must be presentable to the target, which would be you, which is also presented in the clear field doctrine. Okay? So if you want to understand the importance of there having to be a contract, and that contract has to be given to you before they have any claim, then you want to get yourself savvy with the clear field doctrine. Okay? So you could bring it up as another assumption, presumption, rebut that they have the right as the corporation to practice law. Just put a notice in. I, a man known as blah, rebut your authority to practice law as a corporation. And then if you have the DUNS number, attach that to the notice. Now I've done that. We've sorted out the DUNS numbers for these entities and present them every time. Because they all are. The only difficulty is getting the judge's individual DUNS number, because apparently what you can find is they're all signed into something called the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth itself has a DUNS number. Once upon a time you could get the DUNS numbers, but they're hiding everything now with this no-hide, you see. They're protecting this no-hide like you wouldn't believe. And so the presumptions of incompetence, so they're presuming your incompetence, and that again is a big one, because if you're seen as a man, you won't be seen in the court as a man anyway, but they're presuming and assuming that you're an idiot to the law society. You're basically not fit, you can't make up your own decisions, and this is why you need a lawyer. You need someone of their representatives to represent you to the court. Presumption of incompetence is a presumption that you're at least ignorant of the law. But it goes further than that. You are not only ignorant of the law, you're an idiot to the law society. Therefore, incompetent to present yourself and argue properly. Therefore, the judge magistrate, as executive, has the right to have you arrested, detained, fined, or forced into a psychiatric evaluation, unless that presumption is openly challenged to the fact that you know your position as the executive and beneficiary, and actively rebut and object to any contrary presumptions. So you have to keep doing that. You have to keep rebutting it. Which is why you formulate your work paperwork in order that you constantly declaring who you are, who you're not, and who you're addressing, what capacity you're addressing. Always doing business as. So you name, in a private capacity if you wish, doing business as, off you go. I mean, you made it clear there who you're communicating to. You're communicating to the guy or female in the private. You have to keep objecting to it. It can do what they need to keep you obedient, and they're going to try and do whatever they have to do in order to pass off the fraud. This is how the billions and billions of dollars have been stolen from men and women over the centuries. And presumption of guilt is the assumption and presumption that's presumed by a private business meeting of the bar guild that you are guilty, which is debt. Whether you plead guilty, do not plead, or plead not guilty. Therefore, unless you're either have previously prepared an affidavit of truth and a motion to dismiss with extreme prejudice onto the public record, or call a demurrer, then the presumption is that you are guilty and the private bar can hold you until a bond is prepared. So that's what you want to do. You want to put in an affidavit of truth or a solemn declaration or a living will. Now, the living will I find rather interesting. I've used the declaration with success, and now we're looking at the living will. And a motion to dismiss in there before you even step inside that building. That's super important. All these points are important because this is what they're working to. And this is why 99% of us get thrown into jail cell or get fined, because we don't rebut these things. If you rebut all this stuff in open court, they don't have a leg to stand on. And they're fraudulent, they're criminals, they're probably still going to try and put a plea date in, or another court date, or they're going to continue with their nonsense and pretend you're not even there. They do it all the time. That's what happens. This is the truth. But stay on your ground. Don't make sure that you rebut all of these assumptions and presumptions, and do it in writing, and also do it verbally. And this is what I was saying about going back to this. Pay attention to what you're putting in there in writing, because you're going to have to match it verbally. And so what would be the point in rhyming off thousands and thousands and thousands of statutes and acts and nonsense that's only going to end up tripping you up unless you've got a photographic memory, But so it's important that whatever you're doing, you can match it verbally. And of course, stay on the side of common law, and it goes God, man, government, corporations, doesn't it? That's the order of things from the biblical perspective. And so the most important one of all, you say to them, I am a man known, such is your name, and so rebut the presumptions and assumptions of all known and unknown in this court, or at any time, okay, so in the court or outside of the court. So you're rebutting the hidden side of things as well, known that you've presented, and any unknown. So I've used the term blind adhesion contracts when I've requested the contract, and that it has to be a contract that's not formed on these blind adhesion contracts. And I've cited land registry, I've cited postcode, I've cited national insurance number, I've cited resident v inhabitant, etc. These are all blind adhesion contracts that we know that they operate to, because they don't believe that you know them. And so in the conditional acceptances, which is a counter offer basically, I said, yeah, I accept your terms on the production of concise evidence that there is a contract. And this is the way we've played this. And the thing is, they just can't respond. So then you've got to add to that you tell him that if failure to respond or the act of silence means blah, 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 that they're actually saying blah, 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 blah. Because if you put that in, there is nowhere for them to go. You've said this is what you need to do because I'll accept it otherwise, and if you don't, then this is what it means. Because if they did that to you and you ignored it, that's where they'd be running on your tacit agreement. Now this slick at the last game tried to tell me that the act of silence wasn't a binding an agreement, which is absolute nonsense. They've actually used it themselves as a binding agreement. And again, back to, your jurisdiction in relation to geographical area like Lancashire. So town, it's near Accrington, because you're not claiming to be in Accrington, and it's without the United Kingdom. And again, these are just, and of course, so the number of the property would be in brackets after the street name, not before it, and the postcode would be in brackets. And this, in this way, it satisfies the postal system, but it's off the page. So you're referencing it, but only for a particular reason. And this is where your grammar comes in. This is where you're, getting into this sort of grasp on how the language works. That's how it can sort of help you in your gig. And so basically, there's some good information in there, chaps. And I know we've covered it many times before. And of course, now this is on the website. The website's fine. I'll put this up under the video. Now, of course, one thing I forgot to do is chat to you guys. So, who's in? Let's have a look at you. And sorry if you felt I'd ignored you, because I certainly haven't. So Benefactor says, "Hey Sean, thanks for sharing your valuable insights with us today. A big hello to all the Wisest Island members tuning in. Evening to you, Benefactor." Kerry says, "Love from Ireland." And love back to Ireland, Kerry. Slipknot says, "Alright, Sean, alright everyone. Alright, Slipknot, nice to see you, it was, in the week." Lorne Risley says, "Evening all, Sean. Lost signal last week. Thanks all and Sean for precious information." Did you really? Naughty. Paul Sefton says, "Good evening, Sean and fellow inmates." Evening, Paul. Mike Orford said, "Evening, Sean." Evening, Mark. Jane says, "Hi, Sean. I own the chat." Hello, Jane. June says, "Good evening, Sean and chat." Evening, June. Jerry says, "Hi, Sean. On the Wise Asylum." Good evening to you. And then I'm getting told off. I have no sound. Lauren Risley, and that was the last anyone saw Sean. I didn't think I've been hijacked. Oh yeah, you'd have heard a lot of noises if that were happening, I'll tell you that. No. You definitely know something we're cracking on. I wouldn't have gone quietly, let's put it that way. Yeah, muted, I'm getting told off. Yep, mic is off. We're back! Mew says 77th at the door, playing Knockin' and On. Well, yeah, maybe. Nick says, "Hi, Sean and everyone." Hello, Nick, welcome. Jerry gives it the laughing off the Mew. Yeah, we got the laughing gig on. Good stuff. Hello, inmates of Wide Asylum. Or eat Sean, says Mew. Or eat Mew. Cos gives it the wavy hand and the Sherlock Holmes. Evening to you, Cos. Martin says, "Evening, Sean. It will get worse before it gets worse because it's all planned." Well, absolutely. Lex says, "Good evening, Sean and all." And good evening, Lex. Jerry says, "Ooh." Lone Rizzo says, "Martin, the only way we can stop this is if we had means to stand up to the ones with means. 100% going to get worse, mate." Yeah, it is, because so many of these people have jumped on it. The people that you would expect to be there to put it right have all jumped on this game. That's the problem. And the fact that the public are just apathetic isn't the word, really. Lone Rizzo, the French don't have the gendarmerie on board these days. The lorry driver strikes of the 90s were legendary. Jerry says, "There's only us." It's true. Pregnant Wedgie Boy says, "They love recycling." They certainly do. It's a load of bollocks, you know. It's a load of bollocks. I mean, when it first kicked off, I ended up working at Old's factory. Sweet factory in Radcliffe, I think. And I was there for some time, and the security around this sweet factory was quite bizarre. So obviously I've been there a while, and I was working outside, but they used to sell sweets every Friday, massive bulk of it, cheap. And so I'd had to go in a few times, and it was just so strange. Anyway, what I realised were that all these sweets that were being made there, like 80% of them, were being shipped to Greece. And the massive amount of aspartame in these sweets was huge. So it was definitely a military operation, and they were poisoning all Greeks. And this is what, about 2003, something like that. Anyway, next door to that was the first recycling centre for plastic. So all the plastic were coming into this centre. And I'd got into this lad that were working there, and we were chatting around, and I just said, "What happens to all this anyway?" He went, "Pfft." He said, "It all gets put on a ship, took to China, and they burn it." And I'm like, "You're joking?" He said, "No." I said, "So burning it in China is helping climate change as opposed to burning it here?" We just laughed. And this were right at the beginning of it, and I was putting this out everywhere. But nobody cared. Everybody's happy to do the recycling and all that malarkey. Yuli says, Keir Starmer is Jimmy Savile now then. Ooh. No, Jimmy Savile runs Keir Starmer, make no mistake about it. Airshot on chat says, Ulick, evening Ulick. Some could be role-playing to move to next role, says Jerry, yeah. Face off, yeah. John Smith says, remember they killed off David Bowie character and the same actor appeared. Yeah, he did. Fucking right he did, yeah, the producer. It was pathetic. It was so obvious. It was ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely, John. But remember, it's entertainment. They're all actors, for God's sake. Why would we expect anything different? You know, it's... it's obviously going to be them that are not going to take part in it, I would suggest. Pregnant Wedgie says, that's why we now have reformation. Well, you could be, yeah. John says they admitted in the protocols of Z that they would take over every church. They certainly did. More importantly, Freemasonry. And there's a lot in the protocols about how important Freemasonry is to this system specifically because the entire raft of police forces across the West are run and peopled by Freemasons. And of course, a lot of the Freemasons don't realise that they're all operating for the 21st degree no-had judge, Scottish Rite, Prussian Knight. There's where it's at, people. So yeah, absolutely. Benefactor, pregnant wedgie boy, thumbs up, yep. AMG says, evening all non-mutants. Late to the party for once, evening Sean and Jane. How's the piles, Jane? Straight in there, AMG, evening too. Evening Risley says, excuse me, I'm fecked. Feck increased, says the lone Rizzler. Jane says, no better, MG. Do you want me to return your cream and gloves? Go on, girl. MG, soft entrance to the chat. Sorry, Jane, lone Rizzler. Yes, please, Jane. I think I have a growth to examine. Language is easiest solution, says me. MG, is me reading the Beano? I mean Black's Law. Probably. Pregnant Wedgie says, Jerry, an old Cyrus is getting sworn in on Moon Day. Is it Monday? Tomorrow? It is, it's tomorrow, isn't it? Oh, man. I mean, for my side, it's just funny. Watching the movie. I mean, it's not going to be funny, of course, but because I'm not fixed into it one way or another, and I'm going, oh, look what's happening to my friends, and look what's happening to my side. It's like, yeah, fucking hell. Oh, dear. Jerry, thumbs up, pregnant. Oh. MG says, I shared a WEF photo of Mel Gibson with Sean earlier. Was that you? Cool, man. Thanks for that, AMG. I've put that up. We had that up earlier, by the way. Me says, the legal cannot write to you in law, in the English language, only in the legal using legal English. This is noting or nothing to do with quantum grammar. It's a principle that matters. Well, you've got English, and then you've got legal English. And in a Roman court, there are only two languages, and that is English and French. Not even Latin. Pedro man, family name Kezim Esfarjani. Even in Pedram. A medical note, ASA or acetyl salicylic acid or beer product originally. On a Sunday live chat here, I recommended low dose since then discovered salicylic acid in another compound is poison. Thanks for that, Pedro. Nice to put that straight. Yeah, we do have to be careful. I mean, to be honest, I only push stuff that I've already tested myself. Then I'll speak about it. I'm not advising about it. I'm just saying this is what I did and this is what happened. So I don't mind being a guinea pig. But I do like these. I'll tell you what. Wow. I've stopped taking Shilajit while I'm doing these. These are unreal. Nicotinamide, riboside, and resveratrol. Wow. That's all I'll say. Me says, anyway, I'm off. See you later, mucker. AMG, see you. Nice one, me. Jerry's gonna make Stormtrooper trick. The Lone Rizzler, 17 likes, lurkers, please. Says one on mine. Pedram says, so just consider doxycycline or cindermycin as first choice against infections. Low dose aspirin, only single dose and not for toddlers or younger. Even salicylic acid ointment makes babies ill. Okay, I don't think I've ever heard of this stuff, to be honest. Thanks for that, Pedram. John says, I get the chemtrail cough when I go out walking during the Everspray Day. I think that's what's happened to me this week. I mean, we're not rude, to be fair. It's a very tickly cough. It's weird. It's not grrr, chesty. It's just throaty, but it tickles. It's weird. I don't like it. It wakes me up at night. Jerry says, trust us, we see what's being done on you. Enough is enough. Here's another route to the same place. Jerry Sanner, trading places, Winthorpe and Winthorpe. Was it the dollar bet? It was Jerry here again, too, Jamie. But Marty was a member of the Black Boule. They allegedly left, and after that, well, the Boule crew was sent for him. Ooh. Keck, says Jerry. Whack thumbs up, lurkers, says Jerry. Nick, what's your website called? Mine? I don't even know my own website. Hang on. It's called... I'll put it up for you, then you can see. It's the bridge lifeinthemix.info, but if I put hang on. So there it be. Now if I wait a minute. I don't know whether I can hang on. There's a URL. I'll make it a bit bigger. Just says me funny, you know. There's a URL for the monster. There it be. I'll keep you busy for a couple of years. Where are we there? Right, so there's that. An unrebutted testimony stands as truth, yeah, me don't syntax that now. Taking private oaths and acting in the public. David says, hello, all been posting missing for a couple of weeks. Not a problem, sir. Evening, David. Cool Chili Girl, thumbs up. Hello, Cool Chili, welcome. Jerry says, welcome back, Greg, who guards the post now. Jerry says, D. Greg, yep, back on, shut up. Jerry says, you've been lapping it up on Lanzarote. I remember a guy asking to chat with the prosecutor after quietly asking for the bond number of the prosecutor. She told judge that the matter was dropped as she didn't feel comfortable prosecuting. That's interesting, says Jerry. Lone Rizzler, Jerry, I've heard asking for permission to board your vessel before entering the court sends them off a bit. Not looked into it myself, maritime law. No, it does. It's right. Jerry says, all persons equal under the law, so don't be tricked by that statement. Lone Rizzler, I avoided that, as I think it complicates things, but it's all worth knowing for the greater picture. Well, it is. You don't want to go in and being belligerent. You want to go in with sound knowledge and rebuttal. And that's... we all did this kind of stuff silly when we were at Freeman. And most people were jacking the jobs in just to go doing law in courts to cause havoc. It was quite comical. And some of the videos that come out back then were just hilarious. I mean, because then days everybody go to court, you know what I mean? If one guy had been sent to court, there'd be 20 guys in there, you know, in gallery causing havoc, recording, and because they were going mad about us recording stuff, then they really went mad about it. Which is why now you get bloody searched every time you go in a court. You attempt all your stuff. I mean, in truth, we had a laugh, but we didn't have to screw it up. We closed all the loopholes, basically. But we knew we were doing that, but we had to do it anyway, because that's how we learned. Because from the time we didn't know anything about this to when it came out through John Harris, I mean, I'd already been studying constitutional law, to be honest, so it was not new to me, but the stuff that Harris brought out were, but I think I'd already took me to court by then, because I could see that she were upholding the Constitution. So I've been at it with law for a long time, and before the internet, you know, I did most of my study of the constitutional law, basically. But it were good fun. That bond number, interesting. Yeah. Nom de Dieu, forgive the spelling. Jerry says, the law is that I've not used it myself, but claims or possible claims made against them may strip them of future cover, stopping them from practicing. From what I've heard, but Sean is seeking to provide. Remedy here, yeah, there is. It's important stuff, this. You know, it's really, really important. Wow, okay, that explains a few reactions I've seen. I feel like the dummy of the class, if I'm honest. Got to put more time in. Hey, you don't feel like that. You're way ahead of most people. Most people don't even know what law is. By no means, Lauren, is every day is a school day and there is no magic wand. Key is simplify and be certain and steadfast. Pick your battles well, yeah, and keep it simple because you can trip yourself up. I mean, I know me, and I know if I keep things simple, I give myself a chance. Some people are happy to go copious and really fill it up. No, it's not the way I do, because I would trip myself up, you know. Living will would mean they're trespassing and attempt to administer the estate, yeah, absolutely. Every day is a school day, nothing true, yep, true. Sorry, Sean, I've been waffling away there, lad. 50 press-ups. No, you're fine, it's not February yet. February we're getting bad, which, if there's no apples coming to teach you, it's detention and lines. And if you're a nice looking girl, I'm coming to hit your bottom. With your permission, of course. Where are we here? So, pick the battles, I'll live with, yep. Treen, hello Treen. Hi folks, late again. I have to watch it from beginning tomorrow, I guess. Hello Treen, Chuck. I've put 5 sit-ups into Jerry. Guilt is a bastard, says Lone Rizzler. Okay. Big E, this stuff is right up my alley, Sean. Unfortunately, I only got here 10 minutes ago. So we'll play catch-up tomorrow. Really pissed off, I've missed most of it, but she'll enjoy tomorrow's viewing. Some good stuff in there, Ian. I'll put the documents up as well after, so that'll simplify it. It was always worth listening because I do add quite a bit of stuff. I do have my own madness to it as well. Welcome, Big E. Jerry's laughing at Rizzler. Ye hydrofluoric cyclic acid, it's fluoride in water. Link it in chat, Sean. I can't because this computer won't let me go into chat. I could do it on that computer, but... No, can you do it? Or somebody, just... It's complicated, and you know me, I'm not a complicated character. Where are we there? Jace, come in and link it, pal. Where's the Jace? I haven't seen Jace for a while, have you? He hasn't even shown us that he's lurking. I hope lad's alright. Tar for infections and viruses is the best. Pedram, TA1. Oh. TA1 for infect. What's that then? The truth is sovereign. TA1. Oh, I don't know what that is. I'm not doing that. Well, and another it goes bloody fast, doesn't it? It does go fast, I have to say. I kind of yammer on. But I hope you're starting to see through this bloody Hollywood crack. This Elon Musk and Mel Gibson, now Star Stallone. Flaming heck, I can't believe Rambo's joined the shitbags. I mean, it's just so... I mean, as long as Bourne Legacy, as long as he doesn't start joining them, I'm alright. Because I transferred from being Rambo to Bourne Legacy. You know what I'm saying? So, as long as Bourne Legacy guy doesn't start joining them, I'm still quite safe. And so, unfortunately, Rambo has, and it's not good. Thymosin alpha 1 is a peptide. Okay, thanks for that, Truth is Sovereign. Peptide. Peptide, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thanks for joining. Mods, if you're there, thanks for modding. Thanks for taking part, you guys. And I think there's definitely some data in there that's interesting. I have no idea why that 88 is on my comment, says the Lord Rizzler. I have no idea. Well, you must have pressed 88, surely. Right, with that, chaps and chapesses, I will say, have a good week. Hope it goes well. I hope we get a bit more warmer weather, because I'm freezing my little pinkies off. Till the next time.
electronic